Hi guys, my name is Ian. I'm a writer, teacher, and student doing my master's in the MFA program at NC State. And as I mostly write about queer brown identities, diaspora, a little bit of body horror, that kind of thing. So I'm going to read the beginning of a short story I had out in a magazine called The Dark in August, just the opening scene. The story is called Skin Smooth as Plantain, Hearts Soft as Mango. The beast in the folds of Harry's gut had no heart, and it did not need one, for his was strong enough to keep them both alive. It had neither heart nor mind nor eyes to see. It was only lips and teeth and fingers like needles that slipped inside his tongue and his bowels and even those places he did not know he had. Those unfilled hollows made its gums throb with an emptiness that might have been desire. That night a man came to the house, whose face Harry remembered from the dimness of a childhood memory. His thinning hair was combed forward over the shining dome of his skull, and the line of a mustache traced the contours of his upper lip. He sweated with an unnatural persistence from the pock-like pores on his cheeks. "You remember Uncle Amir," Father said, a statement. Harry's eyes flickered over to Mother, who stood just behind Father, her arms crossed over her stomach. The way she sucked her tongue over her front teeth told Harry all he needed to know. This man was no brother of hers. Uncle Amir smiled. His teeth were too large for his mouth. When the smile faded, his lips didn't cover the thick, yellowed ends. "It's good to see you again, Harry. It's been a while." His English was excellent, almost unmarked. He reached a hand out and Harry took it. "Dinner must nearly be ready," Mother said, pulling away. "Come, Amir. Mudge has been cooking all afternoon." The dining room's at the end of the hallway, behind a heavy hardwood door. The table is set for four. White candles balanced in pewter holders, Mother's best plates, white and blue chinoiserie, shipped all the way from London, sat perfectly centered before each empty chair. The tablecloth had begun to yellow because of the humidity of Diana's summers, Father would always say, jovially cursing the tropics. Father sat at the head of the table, striking up a conversation with Uncle Amir, and Amir immediately took the chair to his right. Harry cursed inwardly. This meant he would need to sit next to Mother. Father took the white linen from under the fork and knife, shook it open, and placed it neatly on his lap. Everyone else did the same. The cook, Majid, burst in from the kitchen, shouldering the door open, dinner balanced on the trays of his upturned palms. Harry had been listening to Father talk about work, a tedious monologue about the rising price of equipment for the mill, which had Uncle Amir nodding in vigorous assent at the end of every sentence, but his attention drained away as soon as Majid laid the plates on the jaundiced tablecloth. It was a richer meal than what they had most weekdays. Two large tilapia, one leaned against the other, their meaty sides slit open and stuffed with lemon wedges and sorrel, plantain baked until its edges had crisped, caramel brown, and a steaming bowl of chana spiced with cumin and ginger, topped with rings of sautéed onion. And back he came with still more plates, a pie of beef and goat, Majid's poor facsimile of Father's favorite, steak and kidney pie. Okra, roughly chopped and fried in ghee, oh, he could smell the fat, and mango, sliced thin, spread like an orchid in bloom. Harry reached a fork out to the tilapia, and Mother swatted his hand away. "We have to say grace," she scolded. Then, raising her eyes to Uncle Amir, "Would you mind?" Amir recited a short, elegant grace, thanking Father for giving him and the others at the mill such fulfilling work. Father nodded thoughtfully, and the meal began. Harry went at once for the fish, taking a whole tilapia for himself. He cut it open just down the middle, pulling away the sweet, flaky meat with his fork before lifting out the spine and troublesome ribs. He'd come back for those later. He scarfed the fish down, skin and all, gratefully swallowing and immediately returning for more. The beast rumbled pleasantly in his stomach, its jaws receiving the food Harry chewed for it, its snake-like throat slicked by Harry's saliva. He returned to the tilapia's charred head and used the point of his knife to carve out its fleshy cheeks. He especially loved his salt, the sweetness and the softness of the cheeks. Next, the eyes. He only slowed when he noticed, after a few more throatfuls of fish, that Mother was pinching him under the table. She had dug her fingers into the skin just below where his shorts cut off, twisting the fat on his thigh. "Harold," she hissed, mouth drawn, "you're eating like an animal again." Harry put his fork down, pulled his leg away, and wiped his mouth with the napkin. He ignored the heat of her stare, the nettle of her prying, meddling eyes, and focused on his plate. "That's settled, then." Father broke away from a conversation with Uncle Amir that Harry hadn't been listening to. Harry, my boy, we're coming to see the mill tomorrow. How about that? Harry lifted a slice of pie off the serving dish. Sure. He ate a heaping forkful of the pie. It was wonderful. The goat was soft, savory, fatty. The salt and animal juices and hot water crust all came together on his tongue. The beast pushed up, stretching open the base of his esophagus, unfurling its own eager tongue. Mother put her fork down as she watched, then pushed her full plate away. You'll be lucky to have your father's job one day, Uncle Amir said, wiping his mustache with the crisp edge of his napkin. You have a few years yet, but it's never too early to get started with the family business. He gave an ostentatious wink. Mother excused herself, saying she was beginning to feel nauseous, and Majid came to clear the plates. As he did, heaping dirty silverware on top of the plates balanced expertly up his arms, Uncle Amir came and sat next to Harry. I have something for you, he said. Something you might like too, Reginald. Father leaned in, his curiosity piqued. Harry swallowed a mouthful of plantain. Uncle Amir removed a thin magazine from his briefcase and placed it on the table in front of Harry. It was an old copy of The Cricketer. The player posed heroically on the cover, his bat pitched at a perfect angle, his eyes on an unseen ball spinning into the distance. Beneath the picture it said, Frank DeCaires does it again. Good Lord. Father reached for the magazine. This was your mother's, Harry. She had a dozen of these back when we were together. She loved this man, worshipped him. What was his name? He spoke it slowly, savoring the syllables. I never thought I'd see this again. Do you know, Amir, did Bibi ever get to see him play? Oh, sure. Mummy then went to Borda whenever they could. For the first time since he'd come, Amir's accent slipped through. He corrected himself. I remember it fondly. Father passed the magazine back and Harry took it gently. He didn't care much for cricket, sacrilege, if you were to ask the other boys at school, but he knew his mother had, and that was enough. Thank you, he said, glancing up to Amir. My pleasure. Well, Father said, pushing himself away from the table and giving a mighty stretch. Your uncle and I have some things to talk through. You should get to bed, my boy. We'll have a long day tomorrow. Harry was, in no way, looking forward to a long day at the sugar mill, but he gave Father a quick smile, thanked his uncle again, and closed the dining room door behind himself. The beast flexed its long fingers, pushing a little deeper into the warmth of Harry's groin, and settled its tongue against the lining of his stomach. There were whole hours when Harry would forget the beast was there at all, hours when he could let his mind wonder at a life that was not consumed by its needs, but it would pop another vein, gorge itself on his blood, his bile, his mucus, and then heal his broken body. He suffered it all without so much as a bruise. Instead of getting to bed, he eased open the kitchen's side door. Majid was still there. He had his apron on while he washed grease out of dishes, his face buried in a cloud of steam rising from the sink. Oh, he started when he heard the door close behind Harry. The dishes clattered back into the sink. You scare me, boy. I'm sorry, Majid. I'm just looking for a little food if you have any left, Harry said, playing at coyness the best he could. Sometimes I get a little peckish at night. You not eat? The cook replied testily, cracking open the icebox. Look how skinny you are, boy. I ate. I'm just hungry. Majid wrapped yesterday's roti and a hunk of leftover tilapia in paper towels, then put it all on a small plate. Harry took the plate, and the cook returned the dishes to the sink. Food in hand, he headed upstairs. Father and Uncle Amir had retreated to the drawing room. He watched for a moment as their shadows moved behind the door's frosted glass inlay. Their voices were pleasant, muffled baritones. He padded along the hallway at the top of the stairs as softly as he could. The door to Mother and Father's room was just ajar, and the lights were off. The hallway grew darker the further he went along, until he came to his room at the very end. He pulled the door shut just behind himself, slow, then switched the lamp on. The room had been his for the 12 years he lived in the house, but it had been Mother's collecting room before then. She had a fascination with tropic wildlife, a real naturalist's eye, as Father said. She trapped insects, damselflies, dragonflies, orange-spotted butterflies, blister beetles, darkling beetles, velvet ants, boring weevils, and pinned them to huge sheets of styrofoam leaned against the walls. She refused to relocate the collection when Harry moved in, so he'd grown up with them here. Year after year, the bugs' hollow carcasses would be eaten away by mites, but there were an infinite number of insects in the jungle, and Mother never tired of finding more. Harry was allowed the two bottom drawers of the dresser in his room. All of the others were filled with longhorn beetles and boxes of pins. In the very bottom drawer, tucked in a corner behind his always freshly starched school uniforms, he kept the few things that reminded him of his birth mother: a fishing hook, a photo of her in front of her old house, and now the cricketer. On his knees, he took out the photo. She wasn't especially beautiful. Her skin was dark, at least because of father, Harry was light enough to pass as British, and, like Uncle Amir's, her front teeth stuck out when she smiled. But his only memories of life with her were golden, sweet things, memories that didn't include the beast. This is disgusting, you know. Mother stood in the doorway. Harry shoved the picture back into the drawer, slid it shut. She stepped into the room, blocking the lamplight, and reached a finger down to the plate of food. She flicked the corners of the paper towel apart, revealing the heaping roti and half-eaten fish. What are you going to do with all this? She adjusted the bow at the neck of her powder blue nightgown, pulling it breathlessly tight. I get hungry at night. We should be eating downstairs, with a fork and a knife, at a table. She crinkled her nose at the lukewarm tilapia, covered it again. I'll tell Majid not to let you upstairs with food anymore. She left, and Harry closed the door tightly this time. Even cold, the roti smelled of garlic and mustard oil. He had to stop himself from reaching out. He was hungry now, but the beast would be much hungrier before the night was over. He turned the light out and laid on top of his sheets. He listened until Majid finished in the kitchen. Uncle Amir said goodbye, and father had come upstairs and used the bedroom door shut behind himself, and the house was entirely silent, entirely still. Thank you guys for coming. Is there anything else? Any questions or anything else?
I just love how the description throughout that first scene, it's like everything you describe, even the food, even though there are portions where it sounds like something I'd like to eat, it all sounds really sinister.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was super fun to write, just because food all the time.
Mm-hmm. But making it sound kind of disgusting almost.
Yeah, that's the truth. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming. This was fun.